All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most complicated, and most deeply human topics out there: religion. We're going to explore the huge questions that all these different systems of belief have tried to answer for thousands of years. But here's the thing: to really get it, we have to start by questioning the one thing we think we already know.
So to kick things off, let's start with a mind-bending idea. This quote right here, it's a bit of a bombshell. What if I told you that the whole category of religion, as this separate thing in your life, separate from your job or science or politics, is actually a pretty new idea? This really challenges us to drop our modern assumptions and try to see these traditions for what they are.
For most of human history, a lot of cultures didn't even have a word for religion. It wasn't a part of life, it was life. It was just how the world worked. It wasn't really until the 1600s or so that Western thinkers started putting different belief systems into this neat little box we call religion. So instead of trying to force one single definition, let's do something else. Let's look at the big, universal questions they all seem to be wrestling with.
And what's amazing is, even though they can look so different on the surface, they all seem to tap into the same deep human stuff. Like, what is really going on in the universe? How are we supposed to treat each other? Where do we belong? And ultimately, what's the point of it all? Is there a path through all the chaos towards some kind of goal? Whether you call that salvation or enlightenment or something else entirely.
Okay, so let's jump into that first huge question. What is everything? What's the fundamental nature of reality? And man, the answers could not be more different.
This chart does a great job of laying out just how different the views can be. You've got monotheism, think Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, where there's one personal God who created everything. Then you've got something like panentheism, which you see in Sikhism, where God is in everything, but also more than everything. And then there's a totally different approach, like non-theistic Buddhism, which doesn't really focus on a creator God at all. The whole point isn't to worship something outside of you, but to wake up to the nature of reality itself.
And this analogy, wow, it's such a powerful way to think about it. It really gets at the psychological comfort of belief. The idea that someone's flying the plane, that we're not just hurtling through a chaotic void. That provides a huge sense of security, doesn't it? It suggests there's a plan, a destination, and that someone is in control.
Okay, so if that's the nature of reality, then the next question is, what about us? What's the core problem with being human? Because pretty much every tradition starts with a diagnosis of what's wrong, and then, naturally, offers a prescription, a path to fix it.
In Buddhism, the main problem isn't sin or some external evil force. It's an internal state called dukkha. And it's more than just physical pain. It's this deep, constant feeling of unsatisfactoriness. You know the feeling, right? You chase something, you get it, and for a second it's great, and then you're on to the next thing. Buddhism says that craving, that constant grasping, is the actual source of our suffering. The problem is inside our own minds.
Now, for traditions with a personal God, the problem is often framed very differently. It's about our relationship with God and the existence of evil. And this quote, it just hits you right in the gut. It takes the problem of evil from a dusty philosophy book and makes it painfully real. It's not a puzzle. It's watching someone you love suffer and asking, why? Why would a good and all-powerful God let this happen? That's a question at the very heart of traditions like Christianity and Judaism.
So if the problem in Buddhism is craving, what's the solution? It's a very practical one: the Noble Eightfold Path. You can think of it like a complete training program for your mind and your life, broken down into three main parts: developing wisdom to see clearly, practicing moral virtues to act skillfully, and training your mind directly through meditation.
Now, contrast that with the path in Islam. It's a different approach. Here, the problem is that we humans tend to forget God and be disobedient. The solution, then, is submission to God's will. And that submission is structured by these 5 pillars, 5 core practices that shape a believer's entire life. From daily prayer to an annual fast, they constantly reorient you back toward God. It's a path of clear, communal, and required actions.
So, we've looked at the internal logic, the blueprints of these systems. But what happens when they hit the messy, real world? Is religion, on balance, a force for good or for harm? And boy, this is where the debate gets really intense.
On one side, people argue that religion is the very bedrock of our most important values. Take human rights. This quote gets right to it. The whole idea that we have rights that no government can just take away. Where does that come from? Well, the argument is that it comes from a belief in a creator, that our rights are God-given. Without that, they're just man-made rules. And what humans give, humans can take away. But then you hear the other side of the coin. Critics say that this focus on an afterlife can be profoundly harmful, and this example is stark. The promise of a reward in heaven, pie in the sky, as they say, can be used as a tool to make people accept horrible injustice in this life. It can devalue the here and now and become a powerful instrument of social control.
And this leads us to a really, really tricky question. When we see awful things done in the name of religion, like the oppression of women, is it the religion's core teachings that are to blame, or is it the centuries of culture and politics that got tangled up with it? Honestly, it's often like trying to unscramble an egg. It's almost impossible to pull the two apart.
And just when you think you have a handle on it, you run into a paradox. We often think of religions as these huge, powerful institutions, but their followers are also often the most targeted victims. I mean, just look at this statistic. It's pretty shocking. This 2019 report found that 80% of all religiously persecuted people in the world are Christians. It's just a powerful reminder that the story is never simple.
So after this whirlwind tour, where does that leave us? I think it all comes down to this final huge question about the human experience. Is this endless quest for meaning just a conscious choice we make? Is it simply a tradition we inherit from our families? Or does it point to something much deeper, a fundamental built-in human need to make sense of it all? That's a question worth thinking about.